I can't tell if I want to be like serious or not. I just keep hitting record and then saying stupid shit and then like hitting stop record. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So, if you ever wonder what note-taking software I use, this is called Pluma. It's a very advanced note-taking software. It has copy paste, it has text, it has really good note-taking software. So if you ever need, if you ever need to take notes, this is how I do it. So anyways, I was gonna you can't see these notes on screen, but it doesn't matter because I'm gonna tell you about them. So I wanted to kind of debunk the familiarity argument a bit, and I've done this in a past video, but I'm kind of running out of ideas. I actually have a few videos I want to make, but for right now, this is the one I want to do. So familiarity, right? There's this idea that you want to use what's familiar, and I have never thought this was the case, even for non-technical users. And this is evidenced by not only like boomers making YouTube channels like John Bolduan saying, "Hey, I switched to Linux for my business and it does everything so well, and you should all switch to Linux." I would vehemently disagree with them because I've tried to move people over to Linux and it's a real pain in the ass unless it's my mom, where she's got like somebody to help her the whole time. Even though I had her run Solus Linux back when it was kind of newer, because I was like, oh, she just needs a basic desktop and like printer and Google Chrome and a file manager, and if she's got that, she's good to go. She can do anything she wants on it. And I swear to God, I had her run it for a year, and I never updated it. I just let it run. I didn't give her the root password or anything. She didn't know what the fucking terminal was. But I said, here, just have this. It runs Google Chrome and it'll run a bit better than Windows and you won't get so many viruses. That turned out to be wrong because it was true at the time, but now what people don't realize is a lot of the quote viruses you get now actually run in your browser, and they'll be in the form of like an add-on where like you download some, not Honey but like another coupon app, and you're like, why the fuck is my CPU usage at 100? And it turns out it's fucking mining cryptocurrency on your laptop. So there's a lot of malware that still gets through even on Chrome. And or it's doing something. I don't know if it's crypto mining, but it's fucking chugging your CPU. And I swear to God, I removed those add-ons and it got a lot better. But there's this. Oh, sorry. So, and she wasn't familiar with Linux at all, but I was like, Budgie is it's a fucking basic desktop. How hard, how hard is this? Like, you can learn this shit in like 2 days, and she did. She did learn it because it's fucking easy. You know what I mean? So the other piece of evidence I have though, and this isn't true as much anymore, but when I was around the time I graduated from school, that was when kids started getting like laptops or Chromebooks or iPads or whatever, and I was like, people are used to a lot of different interfaces. Because when you think about it, a lot of people just use their phones or their tablets for shit now. They don't really use computers in the way that you and I would use them because we're more technically savvy. Where a lot of the shit we do runs on desktops or runs on a server or something. But a lot of these people, they do basic shit, and this basic shit can be run on pretty much anything, and the interface is sort of secondary. So I had this neighbor, and she died a few years ago, but she would tell me, and she knew I hated Apple. I still kind of do. I'm not a huge fan of planned obsolescence. I'm not a fan of how they solder components. I don't like a lot of things. Sorry, I hit the microphone, but I don't like a lot of things about Apple. And I'll, if you were to like give me a sugar mama that said, "Oh, honey, I need you to use iMessage so I can send you fucking nude photos or something," I'd be like, sure. Oh fuck, no, why the fuck did my display go? I thought I changed that in power setting. Whatever, I'll figure that out later. Uh, I always have trouble with the power management on my computer. It's so annoying. But anyway, she was like, yeah, I got an Android phone, and her nephew, grandson, I don't know, step grandson, I don't know. Anyways, they would why the fuck did my display go out? That's weird. Maybe it was my KVM. Probably my KBM. I don't think my computer's gone to sleep yet. Um, I gotta look for a new KBM, I swear. It's fine. It works. Just sometimes my display goes out. I don't know. Anyways, she was her grandson or whatever. I don't fucking know their relation. He was really into Apple, and he's like 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. I don't know. And he eventually actually he almost asked me to help him build his first like gaming computer, so that was pretty cool. But she got an Android, and she was like, "Yeah, I look up these videos from this young guy, and he tells me how to use the Android interface." And it got me thinking. I was like, maybe people really do need like guides on how to do things, because I haven't had an iPhone since the 3GS. I know that was like, I got it because it was like one of the only phones you can get. Android like didn't really exist yet, and it was like $50. AT&T was practically giving them away. So anyways, she like now people will sometimes hand me, like boomers especially, will hand me their iPhone and say, "How do I do this or that?" And I don't fucking know. I don't have to look it up usually. I'm able to like fucking swipe my finger around until I figure something out, and then I figure out the menu. And at this point, you could probably hand me an iPhone and I'd be fine. But I'm not as familiar with it as I am with Android now. And but that doesn't mean I couldn't switch, you know. But I am a bad example because I'm very, I don't want to say like I'm super tech savvy, but yeah, I mean I use fucking Gentoo Linux. You know what I mean? I'm pretty out there as far as technical ability goes. Let's be honest. And a lot of people say I'm gatekeepy because of that, and I really try not to be. You know, there's a lot of things I complain about that people kind of misconstrue as gatekeeping, but I don't personally agree with a lot of people's uh I can't really call it anything but ignorance, really. That when you don't know the system and you're making demands like this with Linux especially, the it's no wonder people will tell you to fuck off, you know what I mean? Because you're coming into something you don't know about, and you think you know better than they do, and I have to remind myself that sometimes. That I come into like even a new video game and I'm like, "Hey, what if this video game had blah blah blah?" And then it's like, "Oh, but that's not how we do things here." You know, and I kind of have to deal with it. You know, it's not gatekeeping, it's just how it works, you know. And not everybody's going to agree on how things work. So, but back to familiarity, I'm kind of glad that this has turned into a longer rant, because I was worried this would be like a 2 second video. But I always have something new to talk about, so that's good. Anyways, so she would get these tutorials on how to run Android, and it made me think though that like the amount of devices we have these days, and to bring it back to what I was talking about before I interrupted myself, was or before I got sidetracked or whatever, is schools would give out Chromebooks, or and the DMV has Chrome boxes, and I've had to use Chrome boxes before. Now, a Chrome box is really basically just a kiosk for a Chrome browser. That's really all it does. I mean, you can do more stuff with it, but for what people are doing with it, you basically open Chrome. Like, my mom got this Chromebook for Christmas, and she said, "How do I load my apps on it?" I said, "It's a Chromebook. One, you don't have any fucking storage, so don't put any apps on it. But two, everything really runs in the browser now. So why do you need apps anyways? All your shit's in the browser anyways. Don't worry about it." And it got me thinking though, like, she's not familiar with Chrome OS. I mean, she did use one. Like, she bought a Chromebook kind of on a whim because they were cheap computers. She fell in love with it. It was like her favorite thing ever, even though she's used Solus Linux, which was honestly basically the same thing for her. But if she wanted to, it could do more. But she just really likes Google's UI. She really likes the polish on it. And it got me thinking. I was like, I mean, you've used Windows all your life. She's tried Macs before because she had to like use one for work, and she hated it. She hated Mac OS, and I don't blame her. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of it either because I'm not super familiar with it, and I don't really need it for anything. So, but like people have both an iPhone or an iPad or whatever, and a Windows desktop. So it's not like they can only use one fucking thing. They can use more than one thing. and they can very easily, when they actually buy the device, they will learn it. They will very quickly learn it, because it's not like people are making these super fucking complicated interfaces. Like they're the people designing phones aren't thinking like, oh, we should make this like super usable, but at the cost of uh, the ability for a user to use it. No, I mean, like, software's gotten easier to use over the years, and that's where people get afraid of Linux, is because a lot of the stuff on Linux that we use is not that easy to use, and it requires a bit of knowledge, and that sort of freaks people out. A lot of the people, because I grew up kind of in the not in the 90s, but my first computer was Windows 95, like I mentioned in my last video. So like, if you grew up with computers around then, you actually had to know what the fuck you were doing. It wasn't like the hardest thing ever to do, but as a kid, you would have to learn a bit of computer maintenance, especially when Vista came out. You had to learn how to debug shit, and that isn't so much a thing anymore. There's a video by Programmers Are Also Human that just came out that's really funny, and it's interview with a 2000s computer user, and he's going through all this old software, like little toys for Windows XP, and a lot of them are spitting out like DLL errors, and his LimeWire downloads are like 99% and unfinished. And I was like, man, yeah, that was that was kind of what we dealt with back in like the XP days. Was a lot of shit just didn't work. you know it wasn't like everything was designed to just like slot right into your computer. Some things would actually be broken, or would error out or whatever, and it was kind of a fun reminder of how computing used to be. um but to try and tie that back in, like, we really have a misconception, I think, and people don't understand that it's not the interface that is confusing to people, because a lot of Linux desktops, you can learn that shit in like 2 seconds. If you went out and they actually sold Linux computers at Micro Center or Best Buy or whatever, and you bought one, you know how to use it. It would take you like 2 seconds to learn. The thing that might be the hardest is maybe like on Pop OS, that I just had that problem where the fucking package manager is bugged, and you have to run that command, the one single command, and that would be like a deal breaker for a lot of people, because people don't fucking read the error messages they're given, and that's what gives IT workers a job. No shade, but yeah. So like, I mean, if you were to give somebody Chrome OS, they would very quickly pick it up because they're forced to. They had just bought a computer with an interface they don't know, and this actually happened to me when I was selling a ThinkPad to some like really old dude. He said, "Yeah, my last computer had Windows 8 on it," and I'm like, "Dude, Windows 8's been out of commission for a long time. If you go out and buy a computer, it's not gonna have Windows 8 on it unless you like specifically go out and buy one, and even then, I don't recommend it." So I hand him a computer, the Windows 10, and he's like, "How the fuck do I use this?" And I'm like, "It's Windows. Aren't you familiar with Windows?" And he wasn't, because the interface has changed over the years. Where we're not at Windows 8 anymore. Now we got fucking Windows 11 and for people that are used to something, when we talk about familiarity, that's a really bad argument, because the things people are familiar with will eventually go out of date, and they will have to learn the new thing. Windows and Are you fucking joking me? My dog just started scratching himself. He's waiting on my french fries. But the things that people are familiar with now, they won't be familiar with later. And the things that they're not familiar with now, they can easily learn. It's just not, it's not even a thing. It doesn't matter. The interface really barely matters. You know what I mean? Especially now that they're just so easy to use. So I wanted to talk a bit about, though, because I had this argument on my video, and I had already posted a kind of clarifications video on it, but gamers really started to piss me off, and I'm kind of embarrassed to call myself a gamer now. I'm kind of wondering what I'm even gonna play after I'm done with this game that I'm playing now. Bro, why are you scratching yourself? Are you itchy? I want my french fries. I won't give you french fries yet. But anyways, so gamers wanted Valve to fix everything. Now, Valve made a lot of nice fixes for wine that made it more usable. So that's cool. They did not invent wine. I want to make that very clear. They did not make wine. A lot of this stuff is built on the backs of a lot of fucking effort that goes back like 20 years. Maybe 15, something like that. A long fucking time. And people act like this is newfangled technology, fucking magic, and it's not. It's really not. But what they're thinking is, okay, well, Steam made a device called the Steam Deck, and the Steam Deck is really good at it being a handheld, a single device that plays video games. Now, they want that on their desktop, and I'm like, that's a cool idea if you think of your desktop as an Xbox or a PlayStation or whatever as a video game console. If your desktop is solely there to play video games, sure, you can put whatever the fuck you want on it. Like, as long as it plays fucking video games, right? Steam's got a big picture mode. It doesn't matter what the fuck you put on it. So I'm like, why are we going to SteamOS for this? Like, okay, you want a game console. Well, maybe Valve will make a game console for you. Then they can support. But that's kind of the thing that the Valve doesn't tell them, and why Linux users will generally disagree with you when you say you want SteamOS on a desktop, is that Valve doesn't want any fucking part of that. Because when you start supporting use cases way outside of your product, I mean, where's the fucking money in that? What are you doing? Like, why are you supporting desktops? They could just support Windows, because I'm sure Linux isn't a huge portion of their market share. It's like 4% or something, maybe. And that's like globally, that's not even like Steam. So like, they don't have to support an entire fucking desktop ecosystem, and I don't think they want to, because that's just asking for trouble. That's asking to spend a lot of fucking money that I'm sure they don't want to spend on that, because it's not fucking helping them, you know. And so what it comes down to though is Linus fucking tech tips. I swear to God, this is why I hate this dude so much, because he kind of spread the rumor that Valve was working on a desktop port of their OS, which they're not. And even if they are, like, who the fuck cares? But he and Gamers Nexus were talking about it. Gamers Nexus was like, well, we'll do some Linux game testing, but only if they release SteamOS for desktop. And I'm like, why? Why? We have other distros. It's not like the fucking performance is going to change. Why would you bother? You know? Why are you waiting for something that may not even come out? It's literally just a rumor. And so Linus was like, oh, well, they need to fix the printing. And I'm like, why the fuck would they put printing on their OS? It's for a Steam Deck. And even if it's for desktop, it's for a Steam machine. It's not meant to replace your desktop. It's meant to replace your Xbox. You know what I mean? So a lot of the stuff that you would expect from a desktop operating system won't be present. And people are sort of okay with that for some reason. Because like and literally, so like the fucking answer I got was brand recognition. I was like, dude, Bazai does all of this. Everything. It is a port of SteamOS to Fedora. It does everything Valve has done. All of their stuff has been ported over, except it's usable as a desktop OS. It has the printing. It has package management that isn't like just immutable or just atomic. It supports all of your desktop use cases. Why don't you use that? And they told me straight up, I don't know what Bazite is. I know what Valve is, and that is why some gamers are telling me that Valve is kind of shit for PC gaming, because they have this fucking hold over the entire fucking industry. And people refuse to use anything that is not Steam, which really hampers like other people's performance, like GOG or kinda Epic, but who the fuck likes Epic? You know what I mean? And it gives them a lot of sway over how your shit's distributed. And it's because of that though that I'm like, man, these people aren't Linux users. They don't understand the system they're coming into. They want a product and they want rampant consumerism, basically. And that's kind of what I'm really not a fan of, but I don't even know where I was going with that. So, yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Just like, ooh, that's already 20 minutes long. Goddamn. I better go feed my dog before he starts throwing his head back and smiling at me. All right, I'll see you guys later. Thanks.